is a farmer. No title, no army, no name worth remembering. He owns a patch of land in a cold corner of the world that history was perfectly prepared to forget. And yet, more than 1,000 years later, we are still saying his name. Ragnar Lothbrok. This show is crowded with loud, unforgettable people. Floki in his wild, cackling madness. Rollo in his restless hunger. Lagertha with fire in her hands. There is no shortage of big personalities here. No shortage of men and women who fill a room the moment they walk into it. And in the middle of all that noise stands Ragnar, who is almost always the quietest person in the scene. He doesn't shout. He rarely raises his voice. He watches. He listens. He lets a long silence do the work that other men do with a roar. And he is the one you never forget. He is the one who stays with you long after the screen goes dark. In fact, this show never fully recovered its heart once his story ended, and deep down, every fan knows exactly why. So the question is simple. What is it about this quiet farmer that makes him impossible to forget? The answer isn't one thing. It's 5. And the strange, brilliant part is that every single one of them is already on screen in his very first episodes, long before he has conquered anything at all. So let's go back to the beginning and watch a legend before he had any idea he was one. It begins with a man who refuses to accept the size of his own life. Look at the world around him in those opening scenes. Everyone in it has made quiet peace with the same small horizon. You raid to the east the way your father did and his father before him. You bring home what you can, you survive the winter, and next year you do the exact same thing again. That is the world, that is the ceiling, and nobody dares to question it. Ragnar questions everything. While every other man is staring back at the same tired eastern shores they have raided for generations, Ragnar is looking the other way, west, toward an open ocean that everyone swears cannot be crossed, toward lands that most people are not even certain are real. He holds a strange little stone up to the sky and talks about reading the position of the sun through thick cloud, about finding his way across water with no coastline in sight, and the people around him look at him like he has lost his mind. Maybe he has, but that is precisely the point. And when the most powerful man in his world, Earl Haraldson, forbids it, flatly, with the full weight of authority behind every word, Ragnar does not argue and he does not bow. He simply gives that quiet, unreadable little smile and keeps building his plan in secret. That is the first thing that makes him unforgettable. Before he holds a single ounce of power, he already possesses the one thing most people spend an entire lifetime searching for and never find. A hunger for something larger than the life he was handed. A flat refusal to believe that this, all of this, is all there is. But here is the truth about dreamers. Dreams are cheap. Everyone has them. What separates Ragnar from every other man who ever stared at the horizon and quietly wished is that he actually does something about it. He builds the boat, not with permission, against it. In open defiance of his Earl, Ragnar and a strange, laughing genius of a shipwright named Floki construct a vessel unlike anything their world has seen, lighter, faster, shallow enough to ride a river, and strong enough to survive the open sea. Built for one purpose that everyone tells him is impossible, to cross unknown water and live. And then he does the part that should frighten you on his behalf. He climbs aboard, he gathers a crew of nervous, doubting men, his own brother Rollo among them, and he points the ship straight at the empty horizon. No maps, no charts, no proof whatsoever that the other side even exists. Nothing out there but water and weather and the very real possibility that every man who trusted him drowns cold and far from home. That is a kind of courage most stories never bother to show you. Not the courage to swing an axe, plenty of men have that. The courage to risk absolutely everything, your own life and the lives of the people who believed in you, on nothing more than your private conviction that you are right. And he is right. They reach England. They make landfall on a shore that no one in their world even knew was there. In a single stroke, a farmer redraws the map and shatters the limits of what an entire people believed was possible. He walks into the undefended monastery at Lindisfarne and walks back out having quietly altered the course of European history. And he carries something home with him. A captured monk named Athelstan, a man from an entirely different world, with a different god and a different way of seeing everything. And watch what Ragnar does with that monk. He doesn't simply enslave him and forget him. He talks to him. He asks him endless questions about England, about his faith, about his strange foreign life. Because underneath the raider is a genuinely curious mind, a man fascinated by the world rather than just hungry to plunder it. That curiosity is rare in his time, and it is a huge part of why he keeps surprising everyone around him. And when his Earl's suspicion finally curdles into open hostility, Ragnar does not poison him in the dark or hide behind other men. He meets Haraldson face to face. In single combat, his own life balanced on the edge of a blade, and he wins. He does not inherit his power. He does not steal it in the shadows. He earns it outright, with the same nerve that carried him across the sea. So that is the dreamer, and that is the man brave enough and cunning enough to chase the dream. If that were all he was, he would be impressive, admirable even, but he would not crawl under your skin and live there. The next piece is what turns simple admiration into something closer to love. Her name is Lagertha. In a world this brutal, you would expect a warrior's wife to be a possession, a prize, won and then kept safe at home, something to be protected or simply owned. Lagertha is none of those things. She is a shield maiden, and she fights beside him, not behind him. She matches him in everything. She challenges him, calls out his arrogance to his face, plants her feet, and refuses to shrink an inch. And the genuinely remarkable, almost radical thing about Ragnar is that he loves her for exactly that. Not in spite of her strength. Because of it. Watch the two of them together. The teasing, the easy laughter, the way he looks at her like she is the single person in the entire world who truly sees him for what he is. This is a man who raids holy places and kills without flinching, and yet he is openly, completely, helplessly devoted to one woman who could put him flat on his back in a fight, and they both know it. That contradiction is magnetic. The most dangerous man in the room is also, somehow, the most tender. And every soft moment between them does something quietly devastating to you as a viewer. It hands you something to lose. Because now you are not just watching a warrior chase glory. You are watching a marriage you desperately want to survive whatever is coming. And there is only one thing in this entire world that Ragnar loves even more than her. His children. This is the warm, beating heart of the whole character. The very same hands that raid and burn and kill, you watch them kneel down in the dirt to teach a boy how to become a man. He is endlessly patient with his son Bjorn, fiercely, openly proud of him. And he is raising the boy not simply to obey, but to think, to question, to grow into exactly the kind of person who looks west when everyone else insists on looking back. At home, the legend simply melts away. There is no conqueror here, no future king, just a father with his kids on his own land. And those quiet domestic scenes are doing something sneaky and powerful to you. They are making you care. Without your ever noticing it happen, they turn a Viking raider into a man whose happiness you find yourself rooting for, a family you genuinely want to see safe. Which is exactly why it devastates you when the show tears it away. Because when sickness sweeps through Kattegat, when it reaches into his own home and takes his young daughter Gyda while he is away, you watch this unstoppable, fearless, world-changing man collide with the one enemy he cannot outsail, outfight, or outthink. Disease does not care that he is becoming a legend. It does not negotiate, and he breaks. Quietly, not with rage but with a grief so heavy it seems to hollow him out from the inside. And in that moment you finally understand just how deeply this man feels everything, how much love and how much pain he carries behind those still, watchful eyes. Which is exactly what makes the final piece of him so unsettling, because for all of his love, for everything, everyone he has to lose, there is still something coiled inside Ragnar that will gamble all of it away in a heartbeat, and that is the part you can never quite shake. Watch his face in the moments when everything turns dangerous. Most men feel fear then. Ragnar smiles. A strange glint comes into his eyes right when the stakes are at their absolute highest, as though some part of him has been waiting his whole life for exactly this, as though danger is the only place he feels fully, completely alive. Underneath the loving father, underneath the devoted husband, there is something genuinely wild in this man, an ambition with no ceiling and no brakes. He believes he carries the blood of the god Odin in his veins. He chases visions and omens, hangs on the riddles of a blind seer, hunts for signs in everything around him. And he will wager every last thing he has, his safety, his standing, his crown, even the family you just watched him cherish, for nothing more than the chance to see what lies beyond the next horizon. Even the people closest to him never fully know what he will do next. He is unpredictable in a way that keeps you permanently on edge. And that is exactly what makes him impossible to look away from. You are never quite safe watching Ragnar Lothbrok. At any given moment, he might do absolutely anything. That is the edge. That spark of something close to madness, sitting right beside all of that warmth and tenderness. And the friction between those two things, the gentle father and the man who would happily burn it all down to chase a dream, is the engine that drives the entire character. He is a living contradiction, and you cannot stop watching to find out which side of him wins. So here, finally, is the answer to the question we started with. Ragnar is not unforgettable because of any single one of these things. He is not just the dreamer, not just the brave one, not just the curious mind or the devoted husband, or the loving father or the half-mad gambler. He is all of them at once, in the same breath, in the same scene, sometimes hidden in the very same look, humble and mythic, gentle and terrifying. A tender family man with the restless soul of someone who would sail straight off the edge of the world, just to find out what is waiting there. People who are that many things at the same time do not fade from your memory. They cannot. They are simply too alive, too contradictory, too human and too legendary all at once. And the most remarkable part of all, every bit of it was already there in his very first scenes, in his face, in his eyes, in that small, dangerous, unreadable smile. The whole legend, fully formed, sitting patiently and waiting for the rest of us to catch up. You only ever had to know what you were looking at. If this character ever got under your skin the way he got under mine, do me one small favor and subscribe. This is the very first video on this channel. There is so much more on the way. And do me one more. Drop a comment and tell me which character I should break down next. I will be reading every single one of them.